It's official. Matthew Schaefer has won the Calder Memorial Trophy. He was voted by all 198 voters as the best rookie in the NHL this season, and it's pretty much impossible to argue with them. We're going to break it all down on this episode of Islanders Digest. Also have an injury update with Mathew Barzal to discuss. I don't think it's that serious, but people are talking about it, so I thought I would give the update. But let's just focus on Matthew Schaefer to start here, winning this award, winning it unanimously. I didn't think he was going to get all 198 votes for first place, not because I didn't think he was deserving of it, but more because I thought a couple teams, voters, a couple writers who focus on other teams would just, especially voters from Montreal, would kind of give the nod to the player they cover more closely. But the fact that this was unanimous just shows how incredible of a season this was for Schaefer, because this does not happen often. And to add to how impressive this is, Matthew Schaefer is the youngest player to ever win the Calder Memorial Trophy. Previously, it was Nathan MacKinnon. And as we're going to talk about later on this episode, that's pretty exciting because a lot of these players, especially the young players who win this trophy, typically tend to grow further from what they showed in their first season. And while it's kind of crazy to think that Schaefer could do even more as he continues to develop as a player, that is certainly possible. But first, I kind of want to just talk about some of the other Islanders who have won this trophy. Before Matthew Schaefer, we all know Mathew Barzal won this trophy. It was far more competitive Mathew Barzal's year than it was Matthew Schaefer. Although, to be fair, this was an incredibly competitive season. It's just like Matthew Schaefer was that much more impressive based on what he did. You also have Dennis Potvin, Mike Bossy, Brian Trottier, and Brian Berard. Really impressive names for the New York Islanders, and now Matthew Schaefer has joined them. Before we go deeper into this video is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the #1 sports pick app in the United States. You can download using the link in the description below, and when you do, be sure to use code DIGEST. It really helps out the channel, and when you play $5, you get $50 instantly in lineups. I have some picks for you guys at the end of this video related to a really good defensive that we're going to talk about in terms of what the next steps of Schaefer's development can look like. But I think before we even go into what could be next for Matthew Schaefer, I kind of want to look at the votes and kind of see where they went. And as you can see, Matthew Schaefer got the maximum amount of votes. He got all the first place votes, which you really do not typically see. The last time a player was voted unanimously, it was Solani. So it has been a very long time. And you look below, even Demidov didn't get all the second place votes. So he got 120. Beckett Seneca, rightfully so, got 41. To be honest, I think Seneca maybe even deserves to be closer to Demidov. He has been that good. That 2 pick and that 5 pick in that draft are looking very, very strong. You then have Jacob Does, who, I'm going to be honest, I think Jesper Wallstedt should have gotten more votes. I think he was the better goaltender. But there comes like that bit of Montreal bias there, which is why it's so impressive that Matthew Schaefer was voted unanimously. Because typically these writers, they tend to favor players that they see more often, and it makes sense why. Because maybe you see the little details in their game, or you just maybe subconsciously overrate those players. I mean, going down the list, I think it's actually kind of surprising. Like, look at some of the players that got names, and it just shows you how it can be easy to overrank players that you watch a lot. Oliver Kapanen, he did score 20 goals this year, but as a rookie, but I don't think he was in the top 10 of rookies at all. Fraser Minton had a really interesting season for the Boston Bruins. He got 6 fourth place votes, 5th place votes. Great rookie. I don't think he should have been in the conversation. Justin Shorty for the Washington Capitals got 1 4th place, 1 5th place vote. He's really underrated as a rookie player, but it just shows how much this can vary. And really, the Islanders with Matthew Schaefer, he really was a step above all these players, which is super impressive. Taking a look at his season this year, again, the 23 goals tied the all-time rookie goal record. Didn't beat it. Unfortunately, couldn't score one last goal for the against the Carolina Hurricanes to take the record all for himself. But he's right there in the record book for that record. Also had 36 assists for 59 points. When we were talking about Matthew Schaefer at the beginning of the season, it's crazy because we were talking about because he only played 17 games in the OHL, he had 22 points, but because he didn't play that many games, we were really talking about this player being a player that maybe needed to play a year in college, might not be ready for the NHL. And I think what he did this season just showed how incredible his work ethic is, shows how much better and how much more prepared for the NHL he was than any of us were expected. And I'm really excited to see what he can do this offseason to come back even stronger next season. Because while what Schaefer did is incredible, and if this is his peak, yeah, you still deserve the first overall pick. That's how good he was this season. But I truly believe, just based on his age, being the youngest player in this draft, he was 2 weeks away from being in the draft that we're going to be talking about leading up to this June. He was 2 weeks away from being there. He has a lot of runway to grow his game even further. And just looking at his advanced charts, things like that, I wonder where that growth is going to really take place. And for me, I think the next step in Matthew Schaefer's game is he was really strong on defense this season, but I think there's another level there where with the offense, I do think he can score more points. But I think a lot with the offense with Matthew Schaefer, I think he was limited more by the roster around him than actually what he was doing. He was incredible on offense this season, but I really think he can grow into a better penalty killer, a better kind of more defensive. He was good defensively, right? But we look at like the elites on defense, players like Adam Pelech. I think Schaefer can really kind of move further in that direction and become an even more well-rounded player. Again, he was incredible on defense, but I think there's more room for growth, at least right away there, than on offense. Still, when you look at players that really Schaefer is now in the same conversation of already, you look at the best defensemen in the NHL, and I think the examples we all go to are Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar, and we look at what they did in their rookie seasons. It shows that despite the crazy point totals for Schaefer, there is room for growth there as well. Looking at Quinn Hughes, he took a year or two after getting drafted to even make the NHL. And when he first came up, he was a very good offensive defenseman. He actually wasn't a good defensive defenseman. So Schaefer's also already ahead of him in that category. He's kind of grown into a better defensive defenseman over time. But you look at his point totals. He started as his full season, his first full season. He had 53 points in 68 games. It took him a couple years before he finally got to that 76 points in 78 games. And then finally he blew up for 92 points in 82 games. I don't know quite how high Matthew Schaefer's ceiling is offensively. I don't even know at this point if there is necessarily a ceiling. I mean, we've seen crazy growth in rookie. Just look at how much Celebrini grew from his rookie season to his sophomore year. I tend not to even have expectations when it comes to Matthew Schaefer. I just like to watch and just see what he can do. But I think the next milestone in terms of his offense, and something I think is realistic to expect that he will hit, is the point per game mark. That's a really big mark, a really exclusive mark for a defenseman, and one that I think he can hit. And looking at Cale Makar, who he also gets a ton of comparisons to, rightfully so. As much as people say, yeah, Cale Makar, nobody is Cale Makar, which is true. But you look at where Matthew Schaefer was after his draft year, as opposed to Cale Makar playing his first year at UMass Amherst. Like, Schaefer is already ahead of where he was at this point in time. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to get to those heights, but it also means if anybody can, well, it is Matthew Schaefer. And looking at Cale Makar, he was drafted in 2017, and then you go all the way up to 2021. That's when he hit his first point per game season, putting up 44 points in 44 games. You also look at Cale Makar, not for nothing. The goal scoring kind of came later for him. With Schaefer, it's funny, people were talking about how he doesn't have like the Cale Makar type shot. Cale Makar didn't have a Cale Makar type shot at first. Schaefer's shot has already shown huge improvement from where it was when he got drafted. For me, looking at his numbers, I honestly think the next step in his development is going to be more getting more assists. I think this season, Matthew Schaefer was kind of learning how to be an offensive defenseman. You look at how much he progressed in junior. He didn't really get a ton of assists in the OHL his first year, 14 assists in 56 games. Then in his second year, he was relying a lot of his skating, and then the rest of his offense developed out from that. So I still think he is developing his offensive game in terms of being a power play quarterback, all those things. It looked really good last season, but especially in terms of the playmaking, the creativity, I think there is another level there. So that's where I really think to look for potential improvement next season. And again, if he comes out next season and has the exact same year, nobody is going to be complaining. Finally, thought we would talk about the Mathew Barzal news with Hockey Canada. Will not be playing in the Men's Worlds Tournament after he was expected to. He had a precautionary minor situation where he had a pre-existing injury, and after maybe re-aggravating or just not feeling as good as he thought he would, decided not to play in the tournament. I'm not concerned about this at all, especially the way it's worded, as it was an injury that existed when he was still playing for the Islanders this season. I'm not going to speculate on what that is. Could likely be that knee, something like that. If this was a situation where Barzal took a step back this year, was struggling, like, this would be more concerning. Barzal would just be just fine. I really no longer, all those concerns we had on injuries for the future that we had for Barzal going into the season, I no longer have them. Look, he can get injured. Anybody can get injured. But at this point, not concerned about this. I don't think this has any effect on the Islanders at all. There's some people saying, like, oh, this is going to hurt his trade value. One, I think it would be a huge mistake to trade Barzal, as I've discussed in previous videos. And two, no, I don't think any team that would want Mathew Barzal is going to look at this pre-existing minor injury and think, oh, we can't have that player. You look at all the injuries players have in the NHL this season. Look at the Oilers injuries with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. You really think people are going to look at a minor pre-existing thing with Barzal? I don't know. Not really concerned, and again, doesn't really matter for me because I didn't want them to trade him. Anyway, ending this video off to have some prize picks for you guys. Again, be sure to download using the link in the description below, and when you play $5, you will get $50 instantly in lineups. I went one of my picks here. We were speaking about Quinn Hughes, so the Minnesota Wild are on the brink of elimination here, down 3-1 to the Colorado Avalanche. You know that Quinn Hughes is going to play more than 30 minutes in a game where it could be the end of the season. I don't really care if this game ends in regulation. Quinn Hughes is going to play half, if not more. And that's the other area where, just thinking about it, where I think Schaefer's going to slowly get even more ice time. I know it was crazy at times. He was playing like 25, 26, 27 minutes a game. There's another level to this, and he is the type of player who's going to command that ice time because he skates so well. He is so efficient. Well, when we talk about the differences in Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, and Schaefer, the one thing that is not different is the skating. He has that speed that you need, that elusiveness that you need to be a player who can play 30-plus minutes a game in the NHL and be effective. Because, yeah, you can play a lot of minutes, but like Seth Jones back in Chicago, if you're not good during those minutes, what good does this really do for your team? And then I also have, we're talking about Calder winners, I have Nathan MacKinnon scoring more than scoring a goal in this game, so more on 0.5 goals. Nathan MacKinnon is such a good playoff performer. I expect him to show up big with an opportunity to close it out against the Wild on home ice. I really don't know who's going to win this game. I just know it's going to be a good one. These two teams are so well matched. It's really a shame that this is a second-round matchup, but hey, that's the NHL. That's how it works. Yeah, you can't really do anything about it. Gary Bettman loves this system, and until he is no longer the commissioner, we're not going to get any change because he is beyond happy with the results. And to be fair, it has been a really interesting playoff so far, so I'm not going to complain too much. But that's going to do it for this episode of Islanders Digest. Let's go, Islanders. Congratulations to Matthew Schaefer.